Okay, fair warning, probably gonna go round in circles with my thoughts and ramble on for a while, but just figured I'd talk about something here and see if I can get, the wisdom of the internet, which, you know, be careful what you ask for, I suppose. Um, but so me and a buddy both bought these Trailblazer 325s right roughly about the same time. I got the one with the battery charger and he did not. Um, he is like strictly a welder, you know, uh, got a welder body on the back of his truck and got those really bitchin' what are they, Magnum reels and all that kind of stuff. And he was he was wanting to get a Big Blue 400 welder, and I, whatever the deal was, whatever the situation was, ended up getting the Trailblazer 325. And he actually sounded like really unhappy with it and everything. The bit that I've been talking to him about it and whatnot, which to me is really kind of mind blowing. It's like, um, what do you mean it's a piece of shit? Like it's a fucking, welder that'll burn a, really even a 532, 7018 idle and run your grinder at idle and, you know, no choke, it's EFI and, is very fuel efficient and all that kind of stuff. But he just didn't seem too happy with it. But, um, anyways, he was saying that, his that he wasn't too happy with it, and that I guess one of his buddies has had problems with like three or four of these things. I don't know, and said that what they were, and his machine took a shit the other day too, actually, and I guess his buddy had three or four or whatever took a shit. But what they were doing when they had the problem was running this Hobart Excel Arc 71 dual shield wire. Um, I have actually never used dual shield wire, and I was kind of looking for an excuse to try it anyways. Um, and so just a couple days ago, his machine took a shit, and he was saying that he thought it was because of running high voltage with this wire here. So if you look up Hobart specs on it, they do call for higher voltage on this wire than say like solid MIG wire or flux core. And he was saying that he was running 29 volts. I don't know what inch a minute on 045 select arc or Excel arc, I guess. And then his machine just kind of tweaked out and started doing weird things. He said the voltage started dancing around, and the idle would rev up and down, and didn't have XL power at all. Wouldn't really weld for shit. Would just kind of make sparks. Like he tried on a plate and it looked like just like an arc strike or something like that. And the generator, like the standard generator power, as in like that outlet and that outlet were very, very weak. Um, and said that because 29 volts is out of the specifications for this wire, but he was saying that he was doing it because he's got 125 feet of 2-aught cable on his Magnum reels. And so obviously that's a pretty good bit of cable on there. Where, you can see way I'm running it here. I've actually got like a 6 or so foot whip on the back of the Suitcase, and it's just plugged straight into the machine here. So anyways, he took it down to the local weld repair shop, and they're in the process of trying to figure out what's going on with that. It's under warranty, so of course, well, I say course, but hopefully it'll be covered under that, and he'll get it back, and life will be good. And I actually called the guy that works at the weld repair shop and was asking his opinion on what he thought and everything. And he's unsure at the moment of what would have caused it, but he brought up a good point that I guess I didn't realize really until just now. So I'd have to start the welder to show you and then make a bunch of noise and shit. But just take my word for it that in the constant voltage setting, the uh, the Trailblazer will go up to 40 volts. And on that wire, if you were actually able to run at 40 volts, it would be like, 500 amps or something like that. But course voltage does not exactly mean amperage. But if you look at the back of the machine here, it's hard to read this while fucking getting the phone up here and shit, but you can see in the wire mode it says 325 amps at 28 volts. So that's saying that when the machine is putting out 325 amps in the wire mode, it can do it at 28 volts. And so with talking with the local repair shop and everything, it kind of sounds like he was basically just asking too much of the machine and potentially had a voltage spike. Like, when you let go of the trigger, of course, you have that huge rush of current going down the cables, and then when you let go of the trigger, then it stops instantly, and it can cause the voltage to go through the roof, which the machine has, built-in safeties for that and everything, and it's a welder, so that's kind of what you're doing all day, but of course shit happens, and just shit happens, I guess. Things don't always go according to plan. But anyways, the thing that I was talking with the weld repair guy about, and he didn't seem to be too interested in the idea of it. That's a bad way to word it. He didn't seem to think like it was a likely culprit, but and I'm not calling him a liar. It makes sense in my head, and making a video where I'm talking to myself on here and hoping that somebody else in the internet maybe will have some input and thoughts on this. But my thought was, for one, my buddy whose Trailblazer failed, and his buddy who evidently burned up a couple of them, and from the story that I hear, his buddy that had 3 or whatever them fail on him, they never actually figured out why it had failed or what the problem was. Evidently, they just sent it back to Miller and sent him a brand new welder, and so he got 3 or 4 new welders or some shit like that, whatever. Which, to me, like, that wouldn't satisfy me. I would want to know exactly what happened and why. Just because, for one, I would want to be able to prevent it in the future, but I also like, figuring out why things exactly happen, just out of curiosity. But anyways, him and his buddy both have 12 VS suitcases, and so down in about here, like, of course, inside the suitcase, they have contactors inside of them, and on the 12 VS suitcase, you would set the Trailblazer to one of these two positions here where the output is on. And so essentially what that means is that the weld lugs are hot, like have voltage on them 100% of the time. When you're in any one of these positions here, the lugs are always hot. Because I have the 12RC, I go in that position there, and whether it's, says remote on off these settings here, then the weld outputs are only a power on them when you close the contacts in the 14 pin. And so my thought on that potentially is that, if you're at 325 amps or whatever welding with this wire and these contacts, open up, the Trailblazer is going to be trying to maintain that arc as those contacts open up, because of course in the contacts it's having to break 325 amps. Also, the thing that I was kind of thinking could potentially factor into that is when you have a coil of welding cable on a reel, and I don't know what he was doing at the time. I haven't gotten a chance to actually see the guy in person and talk to him more about what's going on with it. And quite frankly, he doesn't seem to really give a shit either of like telling the story of what happened, just because he's not one of those people that wants to find out why. He's just kind of like, well, you know, Welder quit going sparky, so took it down to the, you know, repair shop and let them deal with it. But yeah, so I was thinking, you know, maybe the VS feeder has something to do with that, but also having the cable coiled up on those reels. You know, essentially what you've got is a giant ass electromagnet. Fuck, words are hard. And so, you know, potentially between the two of those, and just the fact that, you know, you're potentially at the limit of what the machine can do, that kind of just set it over the edge. Like I said, I don't know. His machine hasn't been fixed yet. And haven't gotten a chance to talk to either him or the weld repair guy in person. But I do intend to understand more of what's going on with that, because of course I don't want to hurt my machine or do anything to it that would you know, cause undue stress to the machine or whatever. And I guess it's noteworthy too, my buddy's machine and the other couple ones that evidently blew up were all, from the sounds of it, right about 100 hours. I've got almost 450 on mine now. So, you know, if that has anything to factor into it, I don't know. But yeah, so bought some of this wire just to see what it would do and everything. And this is literally the extent of my experience with this wire. But so far, I sure do like it. It's got a very, very smooth like weld appearance to it. Like, it pretty much doesn't have any ripples. And it's really cool. The slag fucking comes off in these giant chunks, and the slag is really, really, really easy to come off. And just generally, you know, again, like I said, this piece and those two pieces there are, this is my experience with it, because I've never tried this before. So, you know, I guess don't really take my word for it or whatever, but so far I really freaking like this stuff. I've always heard dual shield explained as, you know, essentially 7018 off a spool. And so far, with my very limited experience with it, it sure seems to be like that's what it is. And, you know, of course, obviously, not only is this my first time using the wire, but this is just some, you know, crappy old shitty scrap metal that I was just farting around with and everything. But figured I'd set up the camera and just run a weave up there and maybe run a weave up there and see what she does. But yeah, I guess if anybody, well, for one, has experience running that wire, you know, feel free to chime in and give your opinions and everything. And I guess, has anybody else heard of these Trailblazers being problematic when you're on the upper limit of what they can do? I've always kind of just figured to treat this as like a 300 amp or less machine, because you know, if you actually need to weld at 300 amps all day long, probably don't buy a 325 amp machine. And, you know, the same thing would apply if, you know, if your normal day job requires that you weld at 500 amps, probably don't buy a 500 amp machine. For me, this Trailblazer is absolutely fucking fantastic. I absolutely love it. I do wish it had an air compressor, but hopefully that'll be coming sometime in the near future. I know they have the 302, but I'm talking about one that can, you know, weld at idle and all that kind of stuff. But for me, this welder, you know, I'm mainly using it, for one, for generator power, for the battery charge function. That's really super handy for what I do. and for 1/8 inch and 532 7018. And it's absolutely fantastic for that because it does it at idle. Um, and then trying to, yeah, I guess that's about all I'll say about that. So yeah, fired up. I'll get my hood and shit, and we'll fuck around with that a bit. And yeah, like I said, let me know in the comments if you've had any experience with any of this, if you've heard of anything like that, or hell, if you've run 1,000 pounds of dual shield through your Trailblazer and it's just fine. Let me know. I almost forgot, but it might be a good idea to go turn the gas on. And I'm using 40 CFH of carbon dioxide. So that was 270 inches a minute, 045 wire at 23 volts. The display on the Trailblazer will hold its readings for a couple seconds after you let off the trigger, and that is actually like exactly on what the Hobart spec sheet was saying. Because the Trailblazer was reading 170 amps. But, you know, thin 1/4 inch material, so this this fucking steel is just screaming hot. But I mean, holy shit, look at that. And yeah, if the material wasn't so blazing hot, I'm sure that would have come off a lot better. And yeah, you know, just farting around with it. Like I said, this is my first time trying it and the extent of my experience with it. But so far, I think it's really cool.